Yo, Bo, what's going on? Got another wonderful vehicle vlog for you all. In this episode of Into Life, I'm on my way to my second to last game of the season for the Phillies for my plan. And we are hoping to get ready for another Red October, as the Phillies are now have a magic number of 5 to clinch a playoff berth, or 6 to get that top wild card spot. But they do have the tiebreaker with both the Cubs and the Diamondbacks. And I'm going the wrong way, so we're gonna go the other way. I just remembered I'm not going to take 95 today, because I took 95 to the last game I went to, and the traffic was terrible. I guess now with schools open and everything, it was pretty bad. Not to say that I'm going to not hit traffic when don't hit me. When I go the way I'm planning on going. So I'm going to try to get the Schuylkill to Market Street, Broad Street, and take that down to the ballpark. Because I think that might be a little quicker than 95. I could be wrong, but we're going to see. And to do so, trying to think what the best, I think maybe I will make this turn, go down this way. But no, so they're close to clinching. My last game is next Tuesday night against Pittsburgh, and I don't know if that will be a clinching type situation or not. That would be cool. I've never been to a Phillies game where they actually clinch a playoff berth. That would be a very cool thing if that could happen next Tuesday night. Of course, some things have to go well for that to happen this weekend against the Mets. And the Phillies won a one-run game last night against the Mets. The Mets aren't going to make it easy. The Mets, for as bad as they are, they just seem to play the Phillies tough. It's just, there's always that one team in the division. It's like how the Phillies play the Braves tough. It's like the Braves are like the best team in baseball, right? Or whatever, or close to it, if not the best, certainly right up there. And they won the division by a lot. But the Phillies always give them fits. And that's good, because, you know, if all goes well and the Phillies, you know, go on a run, they would play, you know, if they can get out of the wild card round, more than likely they would play Atlanta like it was last year, and we know what happened last year. Not saying that it's always going to be the way, but, you know, it's nice to know that you're kind of in the head of your opponent already going into a playoff series against them, right? Unfortunately, it's gone that way too many times for the Sixers against Boston in recent years. But maybe the Phillies have that over the Braves. They're just in their head. I know the Braves won some games, but, I mean, there was extra inning games. It wasn't like the Braves, you know, just took the Phillies apart, you know, in their wins. I know they won the other night like 9-3 or whatever, but, you know, the Phillies still ended up winning that series in Atlanta. And I know Atlanta had everything clinched at that time, but still, I mean, they're still kind of fighting against the Dodgers for the top seed for home field throughout. So the Phillies to win that series 2 out of 3 in Atlanta, that was still a big, you know, that was a big series win. Not just because it helps the Phillies' chances, you know, to, you know, clinch that berth, but also, I mean, again, it's a little message to the Braves. Hey, we're not going anywhere. We're still here. As crazy as the ballpark was last year in the playoffs, I can only imagine it will be to that kind of decibel level again this year. Now, last year it was just so special. I mean, last year it would be really hard to duplicate, you know, everything from last year, because it was, that run was unexpected. Like, we just wanted to make the playoffs last year. I mean, you remember videos from me last year saying, I just want to dip the toes. I just want to get in, and then they got in, and basically from that ninth inning in St. Louis in the first wild card game just set them off. They went on their way from there all the way to the World Series. So you never know. Baseball is one of those sports where the best team doesn't. And I know Houston won. I get that. Houston has become a dynasty, but like Atlanta, they don't win all the time. The Dodgers don't win all the time, right? The Rays have never won. Some of the better teams, some of the more consistently better teams in the league just haven't won. Don't win the championship consistently, right? I mean, Houston kind of came out of nowhere. They were really bad, and to their credit, they scouted well with former Phillies GM Ed Wade there, and they were able to build that team, and then they went on to, do great things. Doesn't always work that way, but they were able to do it. And cheating and not and whatever, but still, they were able to do it. And the Philly, and whereas other teams like Atlanta, I mean, there's just a playoff heartbreak. It's like, not just recently. I remember back in the 90s, I mean, all it was the Braves. The Braves were like, every year they would seem to make big runs, and either they would fall just short, they would lose in like the NLCS, or then they would lose in the World Series, right? They would lose to the Yankees a couple times. They would lose, early on, they would lose to like Minnesota. They would lose to, Toronto in '92. They would lose to, different teams. And then finally they won in '95 after the strikes shortened year, the year before, and the Braves won in '95. And it took until a few years ago for them to win again, and they've always been good. They're consistently in the playoffs, consistently win the division every year, just about. I know they had their lull for a while, but it didn't last long because they're good at scouting. But all of that has just given them one title. I mean, think about all those great players that have played on those teams, right? And one title in all those years. So, they're a bit of a playoff heartbreak kind of team. The Dodgers are too. The Dodgers are like every year. I can't remember a year when the Dodgers weren't good. I mean, they've been good every year. Every year it's like, oh, well, this other team's going to overtake them. They lose players. They don't have this. They don't have that. And every year they're in the playoffs. Every single year they win. They seem to win the division, get into the playoffs, right? And what happens? I mean, last year they had a great team. And then they lose to the Padres get them, in the playoffs. And then we beat the Padres. So, you can have the best teams, the best records. I always throw the records out in baseball. It's like you start over in the playoffs. And you can't always say that with other sports. The hockey, you can say that. The team that wins the President's Cup never wins, it seems. They're usually the ones that get bounced in the first round, right? Or early in the playoffs in hockey. Basketball, and I know sometimes you'll have upsets, but for the most part, it kind of goes to the way you think it would. Football, you can have the upsets because it's a one and done, but still, even with that, a lot of times the better team, is the one that makes it to the final, right? The Patriots all those years, right? The Chiefs are now doing it, right? The Eagles last year as a 1 seed. The Eagles in 2017 as a 1 seed won the Super Bowl. Last year lost the Super Bowl, but we're there. So, but you have upsets, you do, but it's not as commonplace, I would say, as you would see in baseball and as you would see in hockey for sure. So I always say just get in. And I don't care about the division. I mean, you win a division title, it's like it's window dressing, basically. It's like, all right, well, you put up a banner for that or something, but it doesn't mean you're definitely going to go to the World Series. It's just, okay, you had a great regular season, you did enough to win your division, and now you go to the playoffs. But it's not guaranteed when you go there what's going to happen. You still got to fight. And now the way it's set up with this wild card thing, these teams, they're like the top seeded teams, and fair or not, they have those extra days off where they're not playing and these other teams are fighting against each other in these 3-game series. And I'm glad it's a 3 game. I didn't like that 1-game thing. That's not baseball. Baseball's about series. It's not about 1 game. But at any rate, these other teams are kind of battling it out, and they're almost like playoff battled already when they get to that next round. And yeah, they're playing a team with a great record, maybe one of the better teams in the league, but they had the fight to get there. And there's something about that. And we saw that last year, at least for the Phillies, right? I guess the Astros, they had the bye, and it didn't really bother them as much. But they've just kind of been there, done that. They've been to how many World Series? It's like it didn't really affect them as much as maybe it did some other teams, maybe in Atlanta, maybe a Dodgers, even though the Dodgers are always in the playoffs. This is kind of a new format. And then you take on a team. It's like both the Dodgers and the Braves took on teams who were familiar with them in the Padres and the Phillies, and they were just able to outdo them, And at least in our series, I give the fans a ton of credit because they spooked the Braves. The Braves are proud. They're not going to admit it, but I saw their faces during that series. The Braves were not ready for this. No one was. I don't even think Philly fans were quite ready for what that was going to be. But it just built up to such a crescendo that once we got there, and it helped they got that split in Atlanta, coming back to Philly, and it just went nuts because that was the first. The other thing that helped is because the Phillies were on the road for so long. At the end of the season, they were in like Chicago and Washington and Houston, and then they had to play those games in St. Louis, and then they started the series against Atlanta in Atlanta. So we had gone a few weeks without this team playing at home. So when they came back home, it was like almost like a hero's welcome, and then it was quite noisy. And even a great team like the Braves with a lot of players that have been there, done that, it affected them. You hear these stories afterwards, some coaches saying the noise never stopped. You would think at least we would have at least a minute or two with the noise dying down between innings or whatever. It never stopped. They had to have, some of their meetings where they talk in the dugout. They couldn't even talk in the dugout. It was so loud. So they had to go inside in the bathroom and talk in there. That was, and that's one of those. I wish I was at one of those games. I didn't get tickets for that round. My first game last year was the NLCS against San Diego, the first home game, and it was incredible. It was a great atmosphere. And then unfortunately, I went to the World Series game where we got no hit. It's not my fault. So I didn't get playoff tickets this year. I think the way they were doing it was you had to buy at least 1 game per round. And I don't know exactly if I want to invest that far. Plus I do think they give you opportunities if you're like, I remember from last year, if you're in a kind of a ticket holder, you can still kind of first crack the next round, like if they advance, whatever, you can still get a chance to get tickets. So I might see, if I could do it then. Financials were not looking like, I don't know if I can do all these games, 1 game per round all together. Maybe I'll just wait. I loved it though last year. I really enjoyed that, but and it's all about the atmosphere. The atmosphere is just, it's what makes it so special. So we'll see. Obviously we're right on the doorstep here. Just got to kick down that door and get in. I hope as the 1 seed in the wild card, because then you get the home games. And even though the Phillies won, as the road team last year in the wild card, and the Padres did too. I believe, if memory serves, it's still home games here in the playoffs with that atmosphere, with that crowd. Yeah, that would be pretty special again. I am hitting traffic where I didn't think I would be hitting traffic. So, I'm glad people enjoyed the last vid I did for the ultimate jersey collector that from Lids. I think it still goes until today for people to submit. I don't know how they're going to run it after that. I don't know if it's a voting process or what. I know when they did their ultimate hat collector the last few years, it was like it came down to how many people, and then you had to vote or whatever, something like that. You had to vote for them. And I don't know. I mean, if it comes down to that, I mean, it does. But it's almost like, and I mean, look, I said I'm doing this, but even if I win it, I'm not going to say I'm the best. That's just not really, you know, I'm happy with what I have, and I do it because I love it. I'm not doing it to boast or say, oh, look at me, even though I had to make a video that I kind of had to boast a bit. But you know, the only issue that I would have is if it comes down to a voting type of situation, is if, let's say I'm a finalist, it's hypothetical, I'm a finalist, and I'm going against someone who has like a large Kobe collection or Jordan collection or LeBron, you know, and people are going to vote just because of the player, you know, not so much because of the collection, but because it's a popular player, right? And again, if they win, they win, whatever, right? It's fair is fair. It's a voting thing. It is what it is if that's how they do it. But I think that's the only thing that would kind of concern me, is if I am a finalist and I see some of these other, I have no idea who else submitted to it. You can't see any of it now. But if it's like, okay, here's a guy with a very large collection of, you know, they have like every single Kobe jersey, and like, you know, even though the contest is more about jerseys, they'll probably have pictures of all the shoes and sneakers and all that with them and everything. I'm not saying it would be King Leo. Although I sound like I'm saying it would be King Leo. But no, like, it's almost like, you know, they would get votes because of, again, because of the player, not really so much because of the collection, you know? But yeah, it is what it is. That's what it is. When we used to do the jersey battles, we had rules. We said you can't show Jordan or Kobe jerseys because people would just vote for that jersey because it's that player, right? And I'm not saying Lids should make a rule like that. Whatever collection you have, right? If you're someone that has a large collection of just one team or just something, it very well could be that someone wins this thing who has a huge collection of, I don't know, Denver Bronco jerseys. Like, it's just every single jersey you can think of, right? And people might be really, you know, like, ooh, that's a hell of a collection for that one team, right? So that might get more attention than someone like me who has a lot of everything, you know? It's like, dude, you know, you have like so much of all these, like every team. I'm just thinking ahead. I'm like, this is what could go down. This is how it could go down. Yeah, it is what it is. Or you might have a collection of, I don't know, like a person who has a huge collection of, you know, New York Yankee jerseys or Laker jerseys, or like a real popular team. So it gets votes because of more so because of the team popularity than the jerseys, you know? I'm just thinking of, you know, I'm thinking of like politics, right? Like this is what could happen, right? It is what it is. But I did it for fun. That's all it's going to be. If I crown the first ultimate jersey collector for Lids, then that's fine. I'll be happy with that. But like I said, man, I just did it for fun, and what happens happens. But I'm glad people enjoy it. I appreciate the support. I posted a little something on there on Instagram too. I tagged Lids. They reposted it. So you know, because I thought I looked at the rules and I thought I saw something about you had to have a couple pictures too, even though they didn't say that in the main thing. It was like hidden. It's almost like, are you really paying attention? But we'll see. Like I said, I just had fun with it, And I will say it also is, if I do win, I won't try it again. Like, I'm not going to be like Arnold at the Olympia, like every year trying to win. If I win it, great, I'm happy. But it will basically be a one and done for me, because let other people have fun, let other people have a chance, in years to come, if they continue to do this. I don't think they did the Ultimate Hat Collector this year. I think they kind of subbed this for that, and I don't know if going forward if they're going to do both, or if this is just like a 1 year and then we're going to go back to hats. Because when you think of lids, you think hats. I mean, you don't really necessarily think jerseys, right? I know it's the Fanatics umbrella. They sell jerseys. They have the locker rooms where they sell jerseys. But I still, even though with that, I'm not like thinking lids and thinking jerseys. Right? I'm thinking, oh, hats. I want to get a hat. All right, let's see what lids has when I'm in the mall, right? But, it's cool. It's nice that they want to branch out a little bit and throw a little bone to jersey heads. I don't know. But, again, I threw my jerseys in the ring, and, we'll see. So I don't know what the next steps are. I guess that will be announced, this weekend or something. I don't know. Because today, like I said, the last day to submit. Excuse me. So we shall see. So yeah, on the way to the ballpark. It's always fun when the Phillies play the Mets. It's I did notice, though, watching the game yesterday, there didn't appear to be as many Mets fans in the ballpark this time. For this series, because their season's over. It's been over for a while, and it's been a very disappointing season for them. They even Mets it up more than usual this year, but there were some fans at the ballpark. I saw in the Philly Captain video. There were some fans, a couple fans doing the "Let's Go Mets." I mean, they're trying. It's almost like, well, where are you going? You're going to the off season. That's where you're going. So, I'm sure they'll be fans, but I don't think it will be like, mid-season or something where they just come down in droves and the 7 lines there and all these Met fans are there metting it up, right? All whooping it up, I should say. The team Mets it up every year, but the fans are, they're whooping, Met fans have fun. And once it gets to August and September and October, usually that's where the fun kind of fizzles out. I know that last year they won over 100 games. They had a great year, and then the playoffs happened, and the Padres kind of took them down a couple notches. But I have fun at Philly. I really do, because Met fans, they're just so fun to talk to, because we exchange like war stories with each other about our teams. Because even though the Phillies have had success in recent years, I mean, it's been a while. We certainly had many years of futility, so it makes it better when the team is having success now, because you know what it was. And so I definitely sympathize with what they have to go through with their team, but it is fun. It's a nice rivalry. It's a nice it's good back and forths. Met fans are good at doing it, so you get into it playfully. It's not, I would never, believe me, you're never gonna see a fight video online with me going at it with, throwing some fists at it. It's not, I do stuff verbally with other fans. I think the most heated, I guess, with Dallas fans, the local ones, like the non-real fans, the fans that are just there when they're winning, and after they lose a game, they you don't hear from them. They kind of go in this seclusion. We have a lot of those Dallas fans in this area. That's why I can't stand I'll say this, I can't stand their local fan base. I think the fans that live in Dallas, or if you're just a true fan and this is all you do, I've met some fans like that here, and I respect them. You know, like Ron, rest in peace. He was a huge Dallas. He lived in the Boston area. He was as big a Dallas, but he always showed that he was a Dallas fan, right? He never wavered from it. Like in this area, you get a lot of these Dallas fans that get chesty. You know, usually this time of year when times are going well, and then towards the end of the year, then you know the chests get a little smaller. I don't want to keep reminding, but it's been since '95 that they've gotten out of the divisional round. I'm not just saying Super Bowl, I'm saying divisional round. And I think this year's going to be another one for them. I think their coach is a boob. I think that, you know, they're going to screw it up eventually. Eventually, this is what they do. Just as Mets met, the Cowboys got a cowboy. Eventually, they turn into a pumpkin. Dak's going to throw interceptions. You know, some of those great defensive plays that they make, they're not going to make. They're going to find ways to, you know, we've ridden on this bus many a time. We know how this story ends. It's good now. It's September. They're good now. They're winning by a lot. They're, oh, look at them, America's team, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, when we get to the, you know, when the months get a little colder and there's a little frost on the ground, then we're going to see. But I tell you, there are certain Dallas fans, and they, boy, they get to you. They get to you, and they're just so obnoxious. I mean, that's the thing. They're not. It's like, I get it. You can root for whoever you want to root for. I mean, I'm proud of where I live. I choose to root for the teams that play here. But if you live in this area and you're going to root for the Lakers or Dallas or the Yankees, usually it's like the same three. Usually, you know, how that tends to work out. It's usually the Dallas, Lakers, Yankees. They don't seem to watch hockey, though. I don't think any of them, like, glommed onto some hockey team. And if they did, it would probably be like the Lightning or one of those teams that win a lot, you know, because, you know, what else are you going to root for? You got to root for the... you know, you got to latch on to the Winnipeg Jets or something like that. I mean, of course they won't. So, you know, but they're in your face. They're thumping their chest. They're look at me, look at me. I mean, look at you. What are you gonna do if they win the Super Bowl? You gonna go to Dallas for the parade? You gonna be that guy? Are you really gonna be that guy or that gal? Is it really what you're going to do? No, I'll just be happy. All right, go away. I saw my team win a Super Bowl, and I went to the parade. I was able to do that. So, you know. And a lot of them told me over the years I wasn't going to do that. So, that's why that ring goes on one particular finger all the time. But, it is what it is. I'm not saying I'm proud of it, but it came close a couple times with me. I remember at what's it called? Because when you think of sports, you think of Dick's, right? Dick's Sporting Goods at King of Prussia Mall. This is the year after. Keep in mind, this is the year after the Eagles won the Super Bowl, right? So this is the next season, towards the end of the year. And the store manager was a Dallas fan, and he was one of those obnoxious fans. Now keep in mind, you're making money because you're selling Eagles merchandise. Okay, because there's no Dallas merchandise on the racks. There's Eagles merchandise, so you're making your paycheck every however many times you get a paycheck because of the Eagles. Okay, but he started spitting all this like venomous hate towards the Eagles, and he's standing there in like his Cowboys collared shirt, and he and I started going back and forth about it, and I'm not proud of it. I should have just walked away. So that, you know what, this guy's just a J.O. I'm just gonna walk away. you know what? It's like the two thick-headed, right? We started jawing back and forth, going back and forth. I kept reminding him about 95. He kept going, oh, you just had one. It just kept going. And I got to the point where we're just like following each other in the store. He's like pretending to do work. He's like holding on to some shirts to put. Oh, and eventually I just got out of there. I'm like, you know what? No, it came to the point where I'm like, it's not worth it. This guy's just a JO. That's just it. And I should have done that a lot earlier, but obviously, some of you that see me on some of the lives know it. Yeah, I mean, when my button gets pressed, it does tend to go. I mean, hide comes out, but Dallas fans, local Dallas fans have done it a few times. There was a Lids. The Lids at King of Prussia Mall, and I mean, and then he had another one of these, you know, very vocal, very obnoxious Dallas fans. So we started going, and it was one of the years where Dallas won the division, and the Eagles, I forget if it was the same year. You know, all these years kind of blend together now, so. But it was one of those years where the Eagles didn't win the division. Dallas did, and it was like the day. I think it was like a Sunday or whatever it was, Monday or something. I don't know. I think I had off work, and it was the weekend after Dallas clinched the division. And this guy just kept going and going and going. And he saw me, and I had my Eagle stuff on, and he just starts going on, and then I start going back. And I'm bringing up facts about the futility of his team over the years and everything like this, and he just kept. And then it got to the point. It's almost like the local Dallas fans. It's almost like they have a beacon. I think I said this before. I think that star that they wear on their hats almost like a beacon that attracts other Dallas fans to come and get together. So these two other guys come in to the Lids, and the irony is one of them was a Dallas fan, and I think either it was his brother or friend or whoever was a Dolphins fan. Now I got the two Dallas fans against me, and it's like it was almost like a tag team match for this one Dallas fan with the other Dallas fan. I didn't have any other Eagle fans in there. It was just me going back with the two of them, and then it just started back and forth with all of them. And the Dolphin fan was almost like Switzerland, right? He was just there nodding. But yeah, that was I got pretty heated. The face got pretty red. Yeah, never came to blows. It never got like that out of control. But you know, verbal jabs like about our teams, not about each other, obviously, but about the teams, about the fandom, this and that and the other thing. Yeah. I've had many wars with Dallas fans. That's been well documented over the years. But that's part of being a fan, right? All fans do it, right? If you're a fan, these rival fans, particularly the rival fans that live in your area, right? That have no allegiance to that team. That's not where they're from. They have no family members there. And again, I'm not saying that you have to, if you're going to be a fan of a team, you have to have been from there or have family members from there. But like the reasoning that Dallas fans here are Dallas fans, it's like because my uncle was a fan or my brother or, I didn't like my dad. Like, that's the best one. My dad was a diehard Eagle fan, and I didn't like him, so I'm a Dallas fan. Really? Yeah. That's the most ridiculous reason to be a fan of the team. But it's always the reason. Or, I just like the uniform. Or, they were on TV. Like, and that's like the older generations will say that because back in the day, right, it wasn't like today. You didn't have all these channels showing football. You had like one or two channels, and Dallas was on all the time, right? On TV, local broadcast, even Eagle games got blacked out, right, back in the day. when the Eagles were just terrible, and they didn't show games on TV, but they would show like the Dallas versus the Giants or whoever they were playing. They would be on CBS. It would be the game of the week. And so people kind of glomped onto them because of Staubach, because of the Star, because of Landry, because of whatever, right? That's the older generation. And then you have the other generation, well, because of the triplets and because of, whatever. The success that they had in the 90s. They glomped onto them then. Or maybe even younger generations because, I don't know, Romo or Des Bryant or whatever the reason, right? There's always something. But it's fun. A good rivalry to me is still something that, it can get out of control. I mean, it really can. But it's still something that's fun. And I just think in football, it's hard to top. Like, even with baseball, and I get it, like, baseball is really about series. Football is one game. So it's either you're going to win or you're going to lose that one game. Where baseball, you play these teams how many times a year? And I'm not saying it doesn't make it a strong rivalry. It certainly does. I mean, you have some of the all-time great sports rivalries in baseball. But it's a little different because it's a series. It's not just one game. Like when the Eagles play Dallas, and I know they play them twice a year, but it's one and done. It's like you play them that week, and that's it. You're either going to win or lose. And then you might play them again later in the season, but still, it's like the bragging rights, right? And then if you don't play in the playoffs, it's like, well, what team went farther or something? There's always something, right? So, and we had to deal with it. I mean, we had to deal with the 0 Super Bowls for so long, right? The Eagles Lombardi trophy case is a donut, because it's a 0 or something like that. Whatever the things they would used to say, right? You can't say that now, but now it's, you only got one. You're one and done, Okay, well, some years ago you said we would never get the one. And look how right you were. Not only did they get the one, they beat the GOAT. They beat the greatest dynasty ever to get the one. So, in a great game. It wasn't even like a one-sided, it was a great game. So, I'll take it, man. I was watching a documentary earlier on Knicks fans. I love these documentaries. I sports docs, particularly if it's about a fan base or something, and I always get a kick out of them. So the Knicks obviously have had a lot of futility, right? Since their last championship, and really since, I'll even say since the Ewing, the 90s, even though they lost to the Bulls or whatever, they were one of the better teams. But since those years, they have really been not very good. For a big market team like they are, their owner's been terrible. They've had a lot of, not very successful drafts, not successful. They've gotten a little better in recent years, but really it's, even then, it's like, all right, well, you don't really win. You get to the playoffs, but you don't win. So Knicks fans have been through a lot, and they're very loyal fans. And so the documentary followed a few of their fans around, and I kind of wish they did more. Like they did, it was more like they were interviewing them, but I would have liked to have seen more with these fans, because then they started getting into the history and the 70s and everything, and they were talking about that, and they were talking about other things, that Dolan and this and that and the other thing, Oakley getting kicked out of a game, which was ridiculous, and all this and that, right at the Garden. I would have liked to have really, I thought what the documentary was going to be was about being with these fans through a season. And because there's been documentaries like that, the Eagles have had one of them, the EAGLES, the movie. That was a documentary about just going with the Eagle fans through the season when they lost Super Bowl 39 to the Patriots. It was that season. Then there was another documentary that came out after the Eagles won the Super Bowl. I'm blanking on the name, Underdogs or something like that. Our year or something, I forget. But it followed Eagle fans, fortunately including EDP, through a season. And that was the year where the Eagles won the Super Bowl. And I think they did something else with it. They may have revised it or something, I forget. But there was another documentary, ironically from the same the same company that did the EAGLES movie for the 04-05 season, they documented Red Sox fans the year before they won the World Series. It was the year that they lost to the Yankees, the Aaron Boone home run. Sorry to Red Sox fans, that brought up a bad memory, but that was the year that they died, and I forget what that was called. It was Rooters or something like that. Really, really cool documentary, really well done. And they just followed these fans around the whole season. And I thought that that's what this documentary was going to be. And I think the name of it was Orange and the Blues or something like that. But it had Knicks fans in it, and it was really that season, but it didn't really kind of follow them around through the season, which is what I would have liked to have seen. But it was still interesting. It was still cool. And they had some characters on there, right? So one guy had a bunch of hats, the Mad Hatter. I mean, he was in there and doing his thing. But again, I would have liked to have seen more with the fans through the season. But, you know, it is what it is. Everyone's going to do their documentaries different. But, you know, these fans are going about how hard it's been, you know, to be a fan, and we've had to go through so much and this and that, and then I thought it was kind of funny because one of the people who was part of this doc, it was him and his dad. And this guy, they both kind of, you know, older guy. I guess the son was kind of like my age, maybe. The dad was a little older, and the son had been in the Marines and whatnot, and you know, and the son brought up the game where Reggie Miller beat them in that playoff game where he just went off and made all those threes, and the look on the dad's face was like, oh. And the son's like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I know it's bad for me too. But sports is what it is. You live and die with it, you know. But I mean, I definitely get it, man. For me, it's the Sixers. You know, for me, it's like, you know, how many ways can a team kick you in the gut? How many mistakes can you make? How many, this should have happened this way? I'm watching this documentary, and the Sixers haven't had the futility like the Knicks have had. The Sixers last won in 80, right? 80, 83. So, it's not as long as the Knicks, who last won in like the early 70s. Was it 72 or something like that? The Sixers was 82, 83. But yeah, it's still two long championship droughts for two teams that play in big markets and ironically close to each other. But I'm sitting there watching this documentary. I'm just shaking my head. I'm like nodding, I should say. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of all the stuff I've had to go through in just the last 6 or 7 years. My goodness. Like, when are we going to get a break? You know? And they were saying how much a championship would mean to them. And all I could think about was remembering, like, before the Eagles won. And all those talk of, man, what would it mean? What would it mean? And you know, just to win a Super Bowl, and to get that moment and have that. That's all we want, you know. And then when it finally happened, it was just such a burden lifted. I mean, it really is. And even if I never see it with the Sixers, I can always say, well, I saw the Eagles win. I saw a Super Bowl. I mean, that's it. With all due respect to the Eagles, to the Sixers, to the Flyers, I want to see them win. I want to go 4 for 4, right? I saw the Phillies win. I'd love to see them win again, right? I saw the Eagles win, and that was amazing. I want to see it again. I'm not saying I just want it. I'm good with one. But, I mean, the Sixers win, it will mean a lot because we've been through a lot. The Flyers win, it will mean a lot. I mean, their drought has been, you know, not as well documented as some of the other teams that have droughts. But, I mean, 74, 75 is a long time ago, before I was born. And I was too young for the 82, 83 Sixers in that era. So, but even if it happens, and I'll be super excited, I'll be at the parade, I'll be happy. But boy, that Super Bowl, that was I don't know if it can overtake that. I really don't. Because the Eagles were the first team I had a real fandom of in Philly, right? That was like my welcome to being a Philly sports fan. I mean, the moment that was my welcome to being a Philly sports fan was the Joe Carter home run in the '93 World Series. That was like, yeah, get ready to be kicked in the gut. This is what it is. But oh, that's a nice billboard. Kelly Green Eagles. Oh, even the Eagles, it gets me. Eagles fly. It's a Miller Lite billboard. Kelly Green with the old logo. Oh. When they're done with that, no, I really couldn't. I couldn't put that anywhere. Put it on top of the house so people can see it from planes. It really is a nice billboard. I better pay attention to the road. But no, I believe me, if the Sixers do it, if they can win one of these years, it would mean a lot to me and the Sixer fans, because we've been through so damn much. It's just unbelievable. But the Flyers too. But that Super Bowl, it just, that was it, man. That was the moment that can never be taken away, you know. And because there was so much buildup, right? So much buildup for that because of all the other years, all the close calls, all of this and that didn't happen, and here we are, right? And just how it happened. It was how it had to happen. it was how it had to happen. But yeah, I'm not trying to take anything away. I mean, yeah, the Sixers win. I will be forever grateful for that because of all the garbage we've had to put up with in all these years, right? The Flyers, yeah, it's been quite a drought. But we're not the Rangers, so they're never going to talk about the Flyers drought like they did the Rangers. Oh my God, you couldn't get away from the Rangers and the Red Wings, like their droughts 50 whatever year. Oh, this blah, 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 right? The Flyers have a drought, and it's like an afterthought. It's like, it's like it hasn't been as long as it was for those teams. The 40 whatever years. Damn it, man. That's a freaking drought. Right, next year's gonna be what? 50. I think next year's 50 because it's 2024. Yeah, I think it's gonna be 50. 50 years of it. Yeah, 50 years next year. I'm trying to do the quick math in my head, which isn't good. I suck at math. 50 years next year. But we're not the Rangers. We're not the Red Wings, so people aren't going to make a big deal about it. You couldn't stop hearing about it back then with those teams. And then they finally won, right? And the Red Wings did at our expense in 97. And the Rangers, of course, did it in 94. And that was like a big relief, right, for those fan bases. I want a relief. I've been a loyal Flyers fan. Where's my relief? Been a loyal Sixer fan. I had to watch the Kawhi Leonard quadruple doink shot, and Ben Simmons not dunking a ball. Mistakes with the draft. Players they got rid of that they shouldn't have. Players that they drafted they got rid of on draft night that they shouldn't have. Coaches that didn't work out. Players that didn't work out. An MVP not playing like an MVP in the playoffs. Yeah, we've been through some shit. So, but I enjoy documentaries like that. You know, it's cool to kind of get a little glimpse inside. That's part of the reason why I'm doing the In the Life series. It's not quite the documentary level because I don't have a camera crew following me around. It's just me with my phone, but still, I mean, it gives people a little inside look. the world of a collector and kind of the trials and tribulations. All right, so we're on Market Street now. A little bit of traffic on the Schuylkill, but I don't, not certainly for the Schuylkill, it wasn't what it could have been. So I still think I did okay coming this way instead of trying to go down 95. The other reason I'm doing a vehicle vlog today instead of the next Phillies game, because the next Phillies game, I'm thinking I'm taking the Mini. I'm taking the Bond Birdsmobile to the game. So actually, it's very windy out today. It's a very windy day. We're going to have a tropical storm come through tomorrow. Excuse me. Which actually nixed Mark M and my plans to go to the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs game, but looks like this weekend is just going to be a weekend to just stay in, kick the feet up, and just watch football, you know, or maybe some baseball. Though I would imagine the Phillies games might get affected by this weekend's weather. I mean, you can see it's getting real cloudy right now. It's dark. I mean, it's not supposed to rain tonight. But it looks like, it could start something, but it's not supposed to. But it's windy out. It's windy out, but this is I will take this. When we get to this, when we start to get to the crisp fall weather, that's me all day, man. I will take this every day of the week instead of the 100-degree high humidity summer weather. You can have that beach weather all you want. That's fine. This is my speed. This is what I like. Not to say exactly like today. It's very windy, but that crisp fall air, I love that. This is my favorite time of year. And yeah, so I'm happy to have cooler weather. But yeah, definitely excited for another hopeful postseason run. It's nice, and you can appreciate it because when you have 10 plus years of not making the playoffs, and that was piggybacked off of the success they had for that 5 year span, winning a World Series, going back to the World Series, winning division 5 years in a row, getting to the playoffs 5 years in a row. That's not the norm, for the Phillies throughout most of their history. Maybe it was in the late 70s into the 80s, but honestly, most of their history has been, fraught with losing seasons and no playoffs, and but they've done a great job to turn things around. And I think one of the great stories of the baseball season has been the Philly fans, with the ovations for Trey Turner, kind of putting the proverbial arms around him to say it's okay, we got your back, and how he performed since. Now, the player has to do it, but I think it was a great moment, and I think that, for all the crap that the fan base goes through, I think you have moments like that, and it shows you what type of, people care. We want to see success. I mean, look, when players don't do what we feel they should be doing, yeah, they're going to hear it. But I think every now and then it is welcome to let a player know, particularly a high-priced player who just got here this season, to know, listen, I mean, this isn't the way it's always going to be, but we know what you're capable of doing, and maybe you're trying to do too much. Maybe you're trying to impress too much. It's okay. Take a breath. We got you. You're one of us. You're going to play in this city for how many years? You're one of us. And turned things around. And again, to his credit, he turned it around. You know, it could have gone the other way. I mean, he could have, right, like, you know, still stunk and then got booed or whatever, right? But players got to play, and that's totally 100%. But it's nice when a player of his ilk is able to turn things around because he does it, but also to get that reinforcement with the fans. And I thought it was so funny because after sometimes I like to hear other fan bases on the radio, and particularly after like a big thing happens or whatever. So after Aaron Rodgers went down in week 1, that Monday, I turned on WFAN. Or was it Monday or Tuesday? I forget what it was. I think it was Tuesday. I turned on WFAN because that's when it was official that he was out. I turned on WFAN, and the midday host there, I forget his name, one of the two midday hosts, one of them was a Jets fan, the other was a Giants fan. And the guy who was the Jets fan said, "Oh, you know, because they're trying to build up Wilson, right? Who's got to be their quarterback now, right?" So he's like, "Well, look what happened in Philly. Those fans were able to turn things around for Trey Turner. Maybe what we got to do is the next home game, we got to just wrap our arms around Wilson and give him a standing ovation, and maybe that wouldn't." But I'm laughing about because all these years of everyone saying how terrible this fan base is and all these things, the Santa Claus, the this, the that, the other thing, right? Now you have this. Now even someone in New York, New York can't stand Philly, but saying, look at those fans, look what they did for one of their guys, and that worked out. Look at the season he's having again. Now Trey Turner's probably a little better athlete in his sport than Mr. Wilson is at playing quarterback for NFL. We'll see, but still, just to try to be brought up in a positive light was a switch. But I honestly, I think it's, and I know I'm biased because I'm a Phillies fan, but I think it was one of the great moments of the baseball season this year. Was that moment, the fans giving Trey the standing ovation, and how it turned around his season. I know it's tough. It's tough to play in front of these fans, but believe me, it's because these fans demand that you hold a standard. If you're going to play here, you got to play a certain way. You know, and I'm not saying that as a negative, but I'm saying that look, these fans, they pay their money to go to these games. And look, the teams aren't always going to be good. We know this. But you got to still show up every game. You got to play. You got to produce. You got to, you know, you're representing the city. You're representing us. When you put the uniform on, it says Philadelphia or has the logos. That's representing us. We don't want to be represented a certain way. And I don't want to, I don't want to go on about, believe me, I can go on about Ben Simmons, but he never got that. He never understood that. And because the fans had his back. In that playoff series against Atlanta, when you had the fan trying to show him the free throw, form, we had his back. It's just he wouldn't do the things that he was supposed to do. As an athlete, supposed to be a great athlete, an all-star. And now you see what he's doing in Brooklyn. So it wasn't just a Philly thing. But the fans we wanted it to work with him because we knew, listen, for this team to have the ultimate success, we needed him to play at a higher level in the playoffs. And I'm not saying go out there and score 30 points a night, but I'm saying do what you're capable of doing. And don't play scared. I don't want to get fouled because I can't hit free throws or whatever. And that was what he didn't get. And that's what made it so damning. That's what made it so damning for him here. That's why the fans turned off. It's like, okay, well, if you're going to turn it off on your team, on your city, we're going to turn it off on you. And it's just that simple. But all that's for another day. I don't want to be upset. I want to think positive right now because I'm going to a Phillies game, and for the second straight year they could be a playoff team, and that's a positive thing. You got to build on it. And I like the fact that it's not just the everyday name players like Harper, Turner, Schwarber, Castellanos, those guys. It's the young guys that are doing really good. And that's, look, you can't succeed without that. So I'm glad that Alec Boehm and Bryson Stott and Brandon Marsh are having good years, because that's what you need. And of course some of the other young players. The guy I have my eye on that I really hope that the Phillies don't do something dumb this offseason is Miguel Rojas. He's a guy they called up this year, center fielder. And I mean, I'm not trying to compare him to these players. I'm really not. But the way he goes out and gets some of these fly balls, the way he has that closing speed, tracking the ball in the air as well as he does. The Braves just retired a number last week for Andrew Jones, and he's not the hitter that Andrew was. Andrew was a great hitter, but the way Andrew would track down a ball and get to some of these balls, that guy was a multiple-time Gold Glover in center field. And the way he tracked down a ball in the air and just was able to have closing speed to get to it, I mean, I see that in Rojas. I do. And I know it's early. He hasn't even played the whole year. But the way he goes after a ball just reminds me about how Andrew did it, how Ken Griffey Jr. did it back in the day. And again, I'm not comparing that. Those two are Hall of Famers. Their numbers are retired. Believe me, there is no way I'm comparing him to them, but what I'm saying is the way they were able to track a ball on the fly, I see that in him. And we haven't had a great defensive center fielder here since Shane Victorino. And before that, I mean, I guess you can sprinkle in Lenny Dykstra a little bit, but it was since Gary Maddox. I see that in him. I mean, if health is going to play a role, consistency at the plate is going to play a role. I think he can always be an 8 or 9 hole hitter. I don't know if he's ever going to. I don't think he's going to be a 20, 30 home run guy. I think average-wise, he could be a 300 hitter at some point. I think he can get you maybe 20, 25 stolen bags a year. He has good speed, as we know, as I talked about his, defensive. The way he plays defense, watching him, it just looks effortless. And that's another thing when I talk about Andrew Jones and Ken Griffey Jr. and those type of center fielders from back in the day, they just made it look effortless. Even that time Shane Victorino would have his bonehead moments. But he would make it look effortless at times, right? You would Fast and Furious. You would see highlights from back in the day like a Gary Maddox and how effortless his stride was to get to the ball. It's like it was nothing, and that's what I see in this kid. And I just hope that the Phillies, because to me it's like, and look, they do what they do. They are in a position where they go after players, right? We know this. Harper kind of started this, and now it's, you're going to go after these players. And I know there's talk, all these links, and I don't think it will ever stop until he goes to either another team or just stays with the Angels. But there's always going to be a link to Trout to the Phillies because it's his hometown, right? He has friends on the team. It kind of makes sense, but I know if they make that trade, they would have to give up Rojas. And I'm telling you, it feels kind of dopey to say this now. I just don't know. I think we have a real gem at center field in Rojas. I think this guy, before his career is over, he's going to have a few Gold Gloves in his trophy chest. And he's going to be an all-star. I don't think he's ever going to hit with great ferocity. He's never going to be a big home run guy. I don't think he has to be. I think you put him at the back of the lineup, 8 or 9 hole every year. Okay, I can take that. But the way this guy plays defense, and it's a small sample size, but I really like to watch this kid. And he is smart. He doesn't just, it's not just he gets to the ball, but he knows how to track the ball. He doesn't dive when okay, he knows when to let the ball go in front of him. He doesn't overplay it. You know, you see these center fielders, particularly young outfielders that come up, and you see them making mistakes. You see them, you know, diving for balls that they should, just to try to make the flashy play, right? He doesn't do that. You know, he's smart with it. When the ball is supposed to drop, he lets it drop. Doesn't let too many get by him. And he's made some spectacular plays in the outfield. And again, it looks effortless for him. And like I said, I just have a feeling about this kid. In some years, that he could be the Philly center fielder for the next decade. If he can stay healthy, obviously, that's going to have a lot to do with it. But I think we got our center fielder for the next decade, and I think he's going to be a good one. I think he's going to be one of the best defensive center fielders in the game. And I know that's saying a lot right now. He hasn't played a whole year, but I see that potential in this guy. And I haven't seen that in a center fielder wearing a Phillies uniform in a long time, since Victorino. So we have something special in this kid, and I don't want to just give him up just to give him up. And I hope they don't, because I really believe that they have something special defensively in this guy. When you talk about, I'm telling you, this guy could win quite a few Gold Gloves before his career's over. I just think he looks that special defensively. I can't tell you about hitting. I don't know if he's ever going to be a great hitter. I think he could perhaps hit around 300. But, you know, time will tell with that. But I know he brings a glove. And let's face it, this guy can save 1 to 2 runs a game on this team, and you need defense. You know, you can't just pound your way every game. You need to be able to stop the other team and take hits away, take runs away. And it's not just always going to happen by strikeouts. So, the Phillies have their issues in the infield with the errors, and that might cost them at the end of the day. But I'll tell you, I feel good when the ball's hit the center field, because I know Rojas is going to make a play. And he has a good arm. You know, he's thrown players out. You know, he's made a lot of smart plays for a guy who's not been in the big league very long. You know, and I don't believe it's a flash in the pan. I really don't. I think there's something there with this guy as far as a defensive player. Like I said, if he stays healthy and the Phillies don't move him or put him in some deal for some pitcher or another player like a Trout or whoever, I think he could be the center fielder for the next decade on this team, maybe more. I really have that good feeling about this guy. And center field for the Phillies has kind of been like, you know, goalie for the Flyers and, you know, some others, linebacker for the Eagles and, you know, different. Like, you know, it's been a while since, right, with all due respect to Carter Hart, but now, of course, the Flyers have a goalie and they don't have a great team. So that, all those years when they had a better team, they never had a great goalie. Now they have a great goalie and they just don't have the team. Just figures. But yeah, I really feel good with Miguel Rojas. As a center fielder on this team, I look forward to seeing what he brings defensively. Might be my next Phillies jersey, to be honest. That's a good number, too. Number 18. I like that number. So, we will see. But again, it's another young player that the Phillies brought. And they usually don't do that, too. Like, they usually don't bring up the players before it's time. But it's good to see that, because that's how you win. That's how you sustain success. If you have good players and you as young players, you bring them up and you can have success. Other teams have done it. It's not always the big names. They certainly help. Believe me, Bryce Harper has ice water in his veins. It's amazing how many big hits he's come up with since being a Philly. And that's great. But when you have your young players, you know, contributing and playing well, that's as big a reason why the Phillies are going back to the playoffs this year as anything else. It really is. Like I said, for a long time, it's like the Phillies wouldn't do this. They wouldn't bring up a Rojas. They wouldn't let their young players be a part of what they're doing, right? When they're certain years and under certain regimes and whatnot, maybe managers. But it's nice to see that they're doing it now, and it's been a big help. Right? Because Harper is, you know, and he actually can get 20 homers. He didn't play the whole season, but he didn't play the whole season with power numbers, right? Coming back from the Tommy John, he came back from that quick, and his power numbers weren't there for a while. Now they are. Trey Turner, about half the season wasn't Trey Turner. Then the ovation, as the Philly captain would say, "We fixed Trey Turner." You know, JT Realmuto's been through his funks. Castellanos was an all-star, but he went through some up and downs. You know, Schwarber, yeah, he's as dangerous at the plate as you're going to find. But he goes through those times where he's just striking out, not doing much, you know, or just taking walks. But that's where you need your young guys to come up and your other players to come up and have success and produce, and they've done that. So that's why I have a good feeling, not just for now, but for seasons to come. It's going to be tough, as always, because we're still going to have Atlanta in division winning. You're still going to have, you know, other teams playing. You know, the Marlins are probably going to get better. The Nationals are probably going to get better. At some point, the Mets aren't going to Met. You know, they're going to get better. So it's a tough division. But as we showed last year, you don't have to win the division every year. You get in, you have a shot. Oh my goodness, I've been on for over an hour. It's been a goodness. It's like lunch is talking back at me now. It's been a long trip. Yeah, it's been a long trip, but I still think I did okay coming this way instead of 95, and maybe it would have been the same amount of time. I don't know, but I just figured to go this way and try it out. All right, so we're pulling into the ballpark parking lot now. Pay that parking. I'm gonna go over here. Hopefully, I can make it. Like I said, it's a bit of a chilly day, windy day. I hope I'm not underdressed for this game. I've been to games where it's been cold, and I sit up at, you know, in the 400 level, so you know, you definitely feel the wind up there. I remember once, what was it? It was earlier this year. I went to a game, and it was so cold. I just I had a short sleeve shirt on with a jersey, but it was cold, and I ended up getting a hoodie from the team store, from the clubhouse store, because it was just I needed something heavier on me. I don't think today's going to be like that, but you just never know. I probably should have brought a jacket, but maybe this would have been a good hoodie. Now I see a lot of people with hoodies. Now I'm getting a little. This is a heavy jersey. It's not light by any means, but maybe this would have been a good hoodie night. Yeah. Maybe Tuesday will be a hoodie night for me, going to my last Phillies game of the year, unless I get playoff tickets. Best laid plans. Oh man, yeah, I know it is going to be windy tonight. I should have thought through this a little more through, or at least worn a long sleeve or something under this. But we'll see. We'll see. So it's a 7 o'clock start. I think it's close to 7 now. Anyhow, I hope you all enjoyed me rambling on about various different things, mostly sports. But little Jersey conversation. It's actually there's a couple jerseys that Slim alerted me to last night that yeah. It could get interesting if things work out, but nothing yet. And who knows? Who knows? It's actually someone else's, and it just depends if they want to sell or not, and we'll see. But Slim FaceTimed me, so he wanted to see my reaction to the one, and oh yeah, there was definitely a reaction to that one. Slim knows which two. I won't say what they are, because it's still something that could still be in the works, but but Slim knows what they are. But it's one of those things. If it doesn't, I've learned too much. If things don't happen, it means something else is supposed to work out, you know? So, after the powder blue Billy White shoes, to really, it's, but, yeah, so, you know, hoping for another, you know, Red October here pretty soon. The next Saw movie comes out next week. I get to see my buddy again on the tricycle. I'm looking forward to that. See, it's the little things in life that you have to enjoy. Yeah, that's. But so I'll probably go see that one of these weeks. Like I said, we have, you know, hopefully some baseball playoffs here. And football's still going on. There's a nice slate of college. I told Mark M today, we were like, it's a shame we couldn't go to this Iron Pigs game with the weather. But I said, but you know, there's a lot of good college football on this weekend, so we can at least, you know, watch that, you know, whatever. There's some pretty good games this week. Was it Notre Dame, Ohio State? You got Colorado, Oregon. Oh, Temple takes on Miami on Joe Klecko Temple Jersey Day, which I'm not going to. It's kind of funny. They're taking on the Hurricanes. We're having almost like a hurricane. It's not a hurricane. It's like a tropical depression, I guess, or whatever. But it's kind of just ironic that, the Hurricanes are coming into town, and so is the weather. They brought that Florida weather up here. So I'm going to have to check that secondary market for that Joe. I would like a Joe Klecko Temple jersey. Temple tough. All right, let's see. Guess we will go with this one. Hey, how you doing?
One. I need another one. It's only 24.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Let's see, the last game I came to, I had to park over there. I'd rather park at this parking lot. So, because I have my landmark here. I have the punter statue that I like to park near. So I always remember where I parked. Of course, I came a little, I guess, after 7. So there's a lot of taking up spaces. Let me see if I can get lucky enough to get a spot in the aisle just where that statue is, in front of. Yeah, it's a pretty full game today. But I mean, it should be, right? You know. Again, we're having a good season, right on the cusp of making the playoffs. It's a Friday night. I don't like the way that one guy parked, though. Well, beggars can't be choosers, right? Although I have to remember. Whoop, I have to remember. All right, where are we going? We're just standing. You're standing in the way. That yes. Let's move. Oh, right. The only thing is that, well, I'll find it. I won't forget what aisle I'm in, that's for sure. Just how far down the aisle. You get older, the memory does tend to go a little bit. You know, it's little things like this that you have to worry about, right? Where am I parked? every now, because, you know, the key has the panic button. So every now and then I'll be walking in the park and I'll just hit the key until I hear the horn. Oh, God. So, anyhow, I'm going to go into the ballpark now. Hope for another win tonight. Get a little closer, trim that magic number down. I know the Cubs already won today, so there's that. But as I said, we have the tiebreaker with them and Arizona. We just got to win. That's the only thing. The Phillies, you know, I know there's a lot of scoreboard watching. I get that. But you just got to win. You're playing a team. I know the Mets play them tough. They're not good. You know, they're in last place for a reason. Just beat them. Meet the Mets, beat the Mets. Okay? That's really what we have to, when it comes down to it. Although these are the teams that are always tough to play this time of year because they got nothing else. You know, they're just playing for, you know, for next season, basically, right? Oh, my goodness. So we will see. But as always, thank you all for watching. This was a marathon, wasn't it? This was a long video. I'm sorry. Bit of a long trip here to the stadium. I knew it was a Friday night. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to hit traffic no matter what. But, you know, we'll be okay. It's not that I haven't made long videos in the past. All right, you all take care. But what do you always got to do? You got to leave those likes, like. You got to subscribe if you haven't already done so. Lunch again. Hit the bell icon so you're always alerted to future content from yours truly. And I will see you all in the next one. Let's go, Phillies. See you all again soon.